Cox can help make your home smarter and your life easier. Now you can use your Contour voice remote to connect to your home life cameras so you can view them right on your TV screen using simple voice commands. That makes it easy to keep tabs on what's happening around your home right from your couch. Need to keep an eye on the kids when they're playing outside? Just say, "Show me my backyard camera" into your Cox voice remote and watch them while you're in the house. And if you're waiting for a delivery and want to make sure it's there on time, no problem. Just say, "Show me driveway camera" to check on it with your Home Life HD cameras on the TV screen while you go about your day. When you live in a home powered by Cox Internet, you can stay connected to what matters and let Cox take care of the rest. To learn more about all the benefits of your connected home, visit cox.com/thisishome today.
Guys like Brownie would have helped us that second year for sure, but I guess good for him. Got to do what you got to do. So nothing wrong with that.
And it's one of those things. It kind of shows like the relationship people have with teams when they come over here, because hockey in England still isn't as respected as perhaps it should be. I don't know what you know about. Obviously, you know from the guys you've played with that you can see from rosters and things, but obviously you never experienced it.
No, I haven't, but I know that the league is growing over there in popularity for sure, and also in quality. I mean, you see the guys that are starting to play over there now. There's some real solid players that go over from North America to play there now, and like I said, even a guy like Brian Connolly, really, really good numbers in the American Hockey League over here, and it was an awesome offensive defenseman when I played with him. So, the more guys like that you can get in the league, it brings the quality up, and it helps out the British guys there, helps them bring their game up, and it kind of works cyclically. Obviously, better competition breeds better players, so it just goes in waves, and pretty soon you get yourself a pretty good league there.
Have you ever played with a guy as chilled out as Brian Connolly? Because I remember walking past him pre-game and he's just got his hands in his pockets, just shuffling around. He doesn't do much before the game.
He was, super chill guy. Just like, I don't know. I think it helps his game though. He's a kind of that patient, hold on to the puck, never gets too excited out there kind of player. So I think that's just his whole persona, and it just translates right into his game. Yeah, he was like, he never got excited about anything, but Connie, what a guy.
And one of the things when we'd have conversations in the office, one of the things we always said is we would have loved to have seen Mark Matheson play for the Panthers 5, 6, 7 years ago, because we obviously saw him at the back end of his career. Now he's like 36 or whatever he is. How good was he when you played with him?
He was good. Yeah. Very, I would say underrated. He kind of flies under the radar. He's not a flashy player by any means, but he did everything really well. Undercover skill, I would say. I don't think he really got the fanfare that he deserved when I played with him there in Chicago. I mean, they had some real solid top end guys, but as far as he goes, he was an undercover, really, really solid defenseman for us.
And he made the big transition from our biggest rivals to come and join us. Not many people go from, it's like our biggest rivals are the Sheffield Steelers, and he actually made that transition. Okay. Which is not a transition many players do. And when they do it, it doesn't always work out. But he did, so which is good news.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of like Calgary to Edmonton kind of thing.
Well, I imagine for you it'd be like you going to sign for Newfoundland after the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, you got to go where the situation's right, I guess. But I mean, the league has been growing like crazy for you guys, which is good. Like I said, not even just Nottingham. I've played with a ton of guys that have gone over there and played and really enjoyed it. So it's I've heard good things about it, and it's only going to get better.
Did the Elite League never come up on your radar? Because with your CV, you're one of the top. Your CV matches the top defensemen who come over here and play. I'm just curious to know if you ever had that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, all the time. It just once I started playing here in Brampton, it was just more of a personal choice for me and my wife. It was just we live in the area now. So I wanted to be close to her and the family. She has her own business here that she runs, so she wouldn't be able to travel with me. So I stopped I shut down all the European ideas just because, once we got married and stuff and we wanted to start a family and everything, I wanted to be close to home full time. So yeah, I would always get offers from there from a lot of teams and not just in that league and in other leagues too. So, there was always interest, but it just wasn't the right fit for us at the time.
So you did try Europe, as you mentioned before. Your first foray into Europe was to Belarus, which is an interesting, because when you talked, I spoke, like Linger's been on this show, and when he talked about going to Russia and he didn't like it out there. How did you find being out there in that area of Europe?
It was an eye opener for sure. I'd actually never been to Europe before that season with Dynamo there, but it was good. I really liked it. I feel like Minsk is a lot more Europeanized than, when you get into Russia. I mean, say for St. Petersburg or something like that. But if you're going to like the more Siberian cities or, the smaller places that have some teams in that league, I think it's a lot different. So I was very, very fortunate. And we didn't have the import rule there as well, being outside of actual Russia. So we had a couple Americans, couple Canadians, couple Swedes, couple Finns. So it was like we had a really, really, I guess, import friendly team, which was great for me because I was just, I was 23 years old and I was a young guy and I needed all the help I could get. And so there was a lot of guys there that were helping me out, which was good. But I could see where Linger's coming from because we traveled to play his team there in Amur, which is like, I mean, first things first, the travel out there is insane. So, I mean, we had to gas up our plane halfway to get there. It was like a 10-hour time change. So that was crazy. I can't imagine doing that all the time, but it's just, that experience is not for everybody. And there's obviously, I've got some stories over there of stuff that I never thought I would see playing hockey, but also it really helped me grow. And the league is amazing over there. There's so many undiscovered talents in Russia there that just like, people over here will never see because they don't come over, the money and everything and whatever their situation is. But yeah, the league is amazing. And I think it was great for me and great for my career as well.
And how did you find that the transition to the bigger ice pads in Europe? Because that's always a big thing for North Americans going abroad.
Yeah, it was tough, especially as a defenseman. I was a little bit lost for the first few games. The extra space afforded in your own zone there, it was like, you take two more steps away from the front of your net and all of a sudden it's a long ways back to kind of home base there. So that part of it was definitely an adjustment. You kind of got to change your positioning a little bit and you really got to be very, very sure if you're going to kind of step to the outside there that you're going to be able to make a play or get the puck or, get a body on someone. Otherwise, it's just you kind of get caught in no man's land and then you're in a bit of a situation to get back to the net front. So that was definitely an adjustment, but overall, I got used to it after a few games. You kind of just you find your bearings again and the coaches and everything and your players are helping you and then you just get used to it, I guess.
And you mentioned there, so you were a defenseman. Just to give a bit of background to Panthers fans about Jordan Henry, was it always defense for you when you were growing up and getting into the game?
Yeah, I started playing defense when I was very young. I think I tried out forward. My parents always said that they tried me at forward, but I just wasn't really offensive. I guess when I was young, I just would kind of always hang back and I would end up back by the defenseman anyway. So they just kind of put me back on D and I was big too and kind of slow. So guys my age, the game was different when we were growing up. So they put all the big, slow guys on defense. So that's just kind of where I ended up.
Well, obviously worked out for you.
It did. Yeah. I just like, I always tell the forwards that they would say, oh, like I want to play D so easy. I'm like, trust me, defensemen don't even want to play defense. It's just so we just get put back here so we can make the team basically. So it's not all it's cracked up to be.
All you got to do is learn to skate backwards.
There you go. Yeah. And forwards can't do that. So yeah, that's your number one strike against you. You're not coming back to play defense if you can't skate backwards. So you might just keep going forward. Scoring's way more fun anyway. So.
Which players, when you were growing up in the game, what players did you look up to? Who were like the ones that you'd like try to emulate on the ice sort of thing?
I don't know if I really tried to emulate too many players. Just I didn't really think about it like that. But there's guys I love to watch. I mean, anyone that's a defenseman would say Nick Lidstrom for sure. Just to be able to play the game basically mistake free is the goal of everyone, I think. But no one seems to be able to do it quite like he did. He was almost Mr. Perfect out there. Everything always worked out for him, and he never seemed to ever make a mistake, which is unrealistic for everyone but him, I think. But also I loved watching Chris Pronger just because he was big and mean, but he also did it at both ends, right? He was extremely hard to play against, but also a dominant player at both ends of the ice. He put up good offensive numbers, and he was a good puck mover, a great leader, and his resume speaks for itself. Everywhere he went, he seemed to elevate those teams that he was on to the next level as soon as he got there. So that's a quality that anyone would aspire to have, to be a leader that can inspire the guys around you. I think that was a big thing that I liked as well.
And you were an undrafted free agent after college and all sorts. And you got picked up by the Florida Panthers. And one of the things that I've learned from doing this is that when you're an undrafted player, it's very difficult to take next steps in your career higher because of like political things where people are invested in draft picks and stuff like that. Did you ever find any frustration with that side of things?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. I think within hockey circles, I think it's pretty well known. I mean, there's definitely a tier of prospects. If you're a guy that's drafted in the first round, for example, you're probably going to get a good amount of chances within your organization that drafts you, and then there might be 2 or 3 other organizations that will take a chance on you just because you have that reputation behind you of being a top prospect or a first round pick. And as far as being a free agent, you haven't really had any people in your corner to start with. So you got to work extra hard to kind of win those people over and get them behind you, get them pushing you. And you've got to do a lot to elevate yourself above the drafted players that have all the money and the development kind of invested in them, which is, I think it's changing now. I think organizations, especially with the salary cap and everything that's came in, they're looking for guys that are cheap and affordable and diamonds in the rough, so to speak. So that's kind of where you find your undrafted guys. And I think it's kind of shifting the focus now and more towards, if this guy can play in the league, then he can play in the league. Doesn't matter if he's a first rounder or a free agent. So it's good to see that, because it's encouraging for, guys that aren't drafted, and you don't have to put as much stock in the draft and everything like that. If you're a good enough player, you'll get discovered and they'll find you, and you'll make your way to wherever you're going to make your way to.
And obviously we touched on earlier that your first trip into Europe was with Dynamo Minsk. After your 3 years with the Florida was up, that entry level deal, were you always looking to try something different because of that sort of thing?
No, at that time I wanted to go back to Florida. I'd had a really good third year in Rochester there in the American League. I put up some real solid numbers, and I really thought I was on their radar to get called up, and always was my goal to play in the NHL, obviously. And they kind of came back with a contract offer that maybe wasn't what myself and my agent had in mind. And I guess it's kind of to be expected. Florida is not a big money team, but they definitely weren't at the time. So, they're trying to get bargains and everything like that. And I just felt like, maybe they didn't give us as good an offer as we could have. And then the Minsk thing kind of came out of nowhere, short notice. And obviously the KHL money is hard to turn down, and you couple that with an experience of being able to go to Europe and play in a league that's as good as the KHL. It can kind of boost your career, and I was hoping it would kind of propel me to the next level, and it did to some respect, because I was able to come back and sign another NHL contract with Calgary the year afterwards. So it kind of did what I wanted it to, and the money also sets you up for your future a little bit more. I mean, in the long run, it's a business too. So you have to kind of think about your life after hockey, and that part of it definitely appealed to me as well.
And you mentioned that you saw some things out in Belarus that opened your eyes a little bit. And I remember when I spoke to David Link, he talked about when he was playing in Russia, he get paid by a little old lady in a cupboard with two men with machine guns either side of her, and whatever she gave you, you just had to accept it. So give me an example of something that opened your eyes in Belarus.
Yeah, we didn't have any situations like that. As far the Belarusian government was heavily involved with our team, so we got paid by direct deposit, just like I would over here in North America. So I don't have any any wild bags of cash stories or anything
that could
like
only
that,
happen
like
to David Link.
Played. Yeah, I mean, I feel like guys like that just attract those kind of wild stories. Like, he's a character, obviously, but it's just like he's a magnet for wild stuff to happen to him, and he embraces it, which is, I think, part of it. It's just so different over there, the lifestyle and everything like that. And the one story that really kind of sticks out to me every time I come back to it is we were going to fly, and you always hear kind of the horror stories about the flying and everything over there in Russia. And I never really had any bad experiences, except for this one really kind of shocked me. One night I can't remember where we were. We were somewhere, Siberia area, like real in the middle of Russia. It was cold. It was the middle of winter, and we played a game, and we were going to fly out to the next city afterwards. So it's probably 1 a.m. when we got to the airport. And so we were on a chartered jet. Everything is, it's good. It's first class there. You're on chartered planes and everything like that. So we went through quick security. We got on the plane, and we're sitting down, and then the captain comes on the radio, and he says something in Russian, obviously, and I didn't know what he was saying. So I asked the guy kind of beside me, one of the Russian guys, like, hey, what did he say? He's like, oh, we're almost ready to go. We just got to de-ice the plane. No big deal. Then we're taking off. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, that's standard practice, right? So you see, you're sitting in, Toronto Airport or Heathrow or wherever, you see the de-icing truck comes up, they spray down the wings, and then you take off, right? So I'm sitting by my window, and I flip up my shade, and I'm sitting pretty close to the wings, and I'm expecting to see the truck there spraying down the wings. Now I see a guy that's standing on the wing with an ice scraper, and he's like scraping the ice off the wings manually. So I'm like, I look at the guy beside me. I'm like, is this normal? And the guy's like, oh yeah, that's how they do it here. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I just kind of shut the shades, and I was like, all right, I guess if that's how we do it, then this is the last flight I ever take. This is the last flight, I guess. So that was that kind of story always sticks out with me when I think of Russia. I kind of always come back to that one.
It's like that. It's like one of those like horror movies where there's the gremlin on the wing when they look out the side of it.
Yeah, exactly. We weren't in the air, but yeah, just this poor guy up there, and it was cold too, real cold. Obviously, you're in the middle of Russia in the middle of winter, so he was. I don't envy him, but yeah, I would have been a little more comfortable if it was just the standard sprayer truck on the wings there. But I guess they do it however they do it.
And that wasn't your last jaunt out into Europe either. Like you came back for a few more goes at it. Like the first one was in Sweden, which I imagine is very different culturally to Belarus.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I had Sweden and Finland in the same year. That was a bit of an interesting year. The last lockout in the NHL there, that year was kind of tough for me personally, tough for a lot of guys, I think. But as far as Sweden goes, yeah, I was waiting for a deal. I was coming off my deal with Calgary there, and I didn't, I just had a kind of a disappointing finish to the season. I ended up getting traded there, and in the off season to Washington, and then I couldn't work out a contract with them, so I was looking for a deal in the American Hockey League, and nothing really materialized right away. So I decided to hop on back to Europe, and ended up in Sweden. Loved it there, to be honest. The country and the people are amazing. I was in Södertälje, probably 35 minutes outside of Stockholm. So
wow.
yeah, great location. So yeah, we would go into Stockholm quite frequently, and I mean, beautiful city, amazing people. You know, the culture there, people are so welcoming, and there's no language barrier, which helps a lot. I obviously struggled with that in Belarus to start with. Was, you know, it's hard to get anything done when you don't speak the language, and the Russian people aren't necessarily as friendly and willing to help you out as, you know, you go to other countries and you got people recognize that you're not from there and you're struggling, and, you know, maybe they help you out a little bit more. But Sweden was just like that. But the people there, you know, everyone my age spoke English for sure. They grow up in school and on TV and stuff like that, so they're used to it. And the hockey was really good too. That Swedish second league there is an up and coming league too. They got a lot of good young prospects that play in that league, so it was great. I loved it, and, you know, it just didn't work out kind of because of the lockout got me there too. The Swedish Elite League wasn't allowing the Swedish players to play, NHL players to play there during the lockout. So the second league opened up to NHL players, and we brought back, you know, a couple guys that were from that town. Jonathan Erickson from Detroit and Nick Hagelin were both from that town, and they want to come back and play at home. So that kind of bumped me out money wise. I had a pretty good contract there, and they just didn't have room for me if they were going to pay those guys. So kind of had to part ways. And then I came back, played in the American League for a little bit with Oklahoma City. That was a great experience. All the young Oilers prospects were on that team, Taylor Hall and Eberle and Justin Schultz. So that was a great experience to play with those guys. We had a lot of fun there, and then the lockout ended and they kind of shook things up. So I ended up back in Finland in the top league there, which was a great experience too. As far as hockey wise, it was, that's a great league. We were fortunate enough to make the playoffs, and we ended up losing in the first round, but it was good hockey experience. And then just didn't end up working out with them either. I got suspended for 5 games while I was there.
That big hit.
3 regular season games and 2 at the start of playoffs. And I think I felt like it was going pretty good until then. And then I feel like they frowned upon that a little bit, and I kind of fell out of favor with the organization after that kind of incident. And then so I just found my way back to North America, and, you know, my family situation had changed then anyways. Got engaged to my wife now that summer too, so just, you know, it was time to come back and be a little closer to home and everything like that. So I definitely enjoyed my European experiences, and, you know, if things had been different when I was younger, I might have stayed there for longer, but it was just, you know, the way my family situation worked out, it's just better for us to be close to home. So, you know, otherwise I did like my experiences for sure.
Now, you mentioned Taylor Hall then, and obviously a lot of people in the UK will have only seen him on TV. Does the TV do his speed justice? What's it like in person?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that in general. I mean, hockey, I love hockey as much as the next person, but to watch hockey on TV is just it's not even close to what it is. And that's the thing that I think is where the NHL, kind of one of their roadblocks to really, really building their brand is just, until you get to a game in person, you just, obviously, you know, you can't imagine the speed and everything goes. So it's tough to attract new fans when new fans aren't going to games, right? So it's on TV, it's great, but it's just not the same from that camera angle. And until you're in the rink and you see it and you feel it, it's just not the same. So no, absolutely, it does not. Guys like that look fast on TV, and it's just like another level when they're on the ice beside you. So yeah, it's fun to watch.
And that's the same kind of challenge we have in Nottingham, as an example. When you talk to people about ice hockey, they're like, "Oh, you play ice hockey?" Like, yeah, you should go and watch it. When they go and watch it, like, this is amazing. It's about once you get people in there, they become addicted to it.
Absolutely. It's easy. It's easy once you get people in the rink to get them to jump on board. It's just a matter of getting those new fans into the rink, because they're you never really know when you're going to try something new out. And then as far as the NHL goes, it's just like it's not cheap to get in the rink, right? Especially in some places, it's like, you're spending $1 to get in there. So that will deter a good amount of people as well. So it's a fine line that you have to walk to try and obviously make it a business, but also grow the game too.
And that's where like a team like Vegas does it right, don't they? Because when you get in there, it's not just the game; it's a show as well. So you get everything when you go somewhere like Vegas.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Vegas does everything big and does everything with a show as far as the city and everything that's involved there. But, they definitely knocked it out of the park as far as the marketing and the in-game stuff and all that. And I think they knew they had to, because, there's a lot of hot tickets in Vegas. So you got to find a way to separate yourself from all the people with not just the product on the ice. It's got to be, everything has got to be appealed to when you get in there. So they did a heck of a job. And, I guess that's the kind of new style of marketing that you have to do. And, if you're in a non-conventional hockey market, the people don't just come in the door just because it's hockey, right? So you got to find new and fun ways to bring the fans in and then get them hooked and keep them there.
And obviously, the life of a professional hockey player is quite nomadic. Like you end up playing lots of different places, having lots of different experiences. When you're doing that, are you always looking for a place to call home, or is it always about? Because there's nothing wrong with trying new things, but how did you look at it throughout? Obviously, in the back end of your career, you found a home in Brampton, but it's throughout it. Are you always looking for somewhere that you want to stay, or is it just about trying or what the best fit is?
Yeah, you're always looking to find the best fit, I think, and when you find that fit, you want to hold on to it for as long as you can. And there's something to be said for a little bit of stability too, just because it helps you, helps you feel comfortable. And anytime you feel comfortable, you're gonna enjoy yourself more, and you're gonna play your best hockey as well, right? It's tough when you're always trying to adjust to a new situation, and there is that adjustment period when you go to a new team or a new league or a new country or a new city, all that stuff. So as much as you want to have new experiences in your life, I think there's something to be said for finding that stability. And it really, when you can dig in and put down some roots in a place, I think it helps all around your quality of life and also your game on the ice too.
And obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Brampton is this place that Panthers fans have heard of, but perhaps don't know a lot about because of the links to the players that come over. So just tell us a little bit about Brampton, the place.
Brampton, the it's an interesting place because it's probably 20 minutes from downtown Toronto. So it's, as far as like it's definitely a suburb, but it's not really, I don't know. It's not publicized or heard of as much when you talk about Toronto and stuff like that. It's what would it be, 650,000 people, something like that. So it's a decent sized city in its own, but I think it's kind of more thought of as a part of Greater Toronto. And we've got an interesting base there. A lot of immigrants and people from other countries have settled there. There's kind of these cities around Toronto where certain groups of people have settled. There's a larger East Indian population in Brampton, so they've started to grow there, and that's one of the areas that they've seemed to settle a lot of them. So it makes for an interesting market for hockey. It's a lot of non-traditional hockey fans there, I would say. So definitely a bit of a challenge to get fans in the building. But as far as the experience I had in Brampton, I loved it. My wife and I live 45 minutes from there, so I was able to live at home for 5 straight years, and come home all the time and not spend much time away from my family, and now my wife and my two small boys. So, that's a big draw as far as, being close to your family and being able to spend a lot more nights at home than you would if you're playing somewhere far away. So yeah, I love my 5 years in Brampton, and like I said, I saw a lot of guys start there and end up playing for you guys there in Nottingham. So it was they all the guys I talked to all spoke very highly of Nottingham and their experience there, and they all said they loved it. So that's good.
And what's the arena like in Brampton?
It's nice. It seats probably about 5,000 people, so a good size for ECHL hockey. I think, anytime you get much bigger than that, it looks kind of empty, no matter how many people you get. I'll take a place like Orlando, for example. I mean, they play in the same arena as the Orlando Magic of the NBA, so they have a big, 18,000 seat arena, beautiful arena, but I mean, even if it's half full, it still looks empty, it doesn't do the crowd justice, definitely. So, well, it's a good sized rink, in a good location. We have 3 practice rinks right there, so we never have to travel to the practice rink, which is great. That's a big bonus for the players, big bonus for the staff too. You don't have to move the stuff around all the time. So to have your home base right there all the time is great. It's just, as far as the league goes, it's a little bit kind of an outlying city, so the travel is very extensive as far as our division goes. I think our closest game in our division was 7 hours away, so it's a lot of time on the bus and a lot of time in hotels. But I guess that's the way it is. There's not many opportunities for teams to be close there, so they make it work, and they're trying to improve the schedule every year. So hopefully it keeps getting better.
Now, one of the biggest challenges of playing in the ECHL is obviously all the roster movement that happens with guys going up to the AHL, coming down. You usually need to go on Elite Prospects and look at the rosters to how many players you have in the season. How does that affect you guys on the ice because it must be hard to build chemistry with things always changing?
Yeah, it can be. So if you look at the teams that are the most successful, they have, usually the least amount of roster circulation. I mean, they'll have, their few staple guys that are going up and down for the whole year. But as far as different faces coming in all the time, I think that's a bit of a recipe for disaster. Can be. I think, our 1 year in Brampton, we set the ECHL record for most players. I think we had 76 players play for us in a 72 game schedule. So, I mean, if you got at least one new guy basically every night coming in, and sometimes 2, 3, 4, it's just like it turns into a big challenge for the players and a big challenge for the coaching staff too, to try and keep everyone on the same page. So as little roster turnover as you can have is definitely the best chance for success in the league, for sure. I think if you can get a good core group of guys, 10, 12, 13 guys that are going to be there for the majority of the year. And then obviously there is some changing with injuries and trades and, call-ups and whatever's going to happen. But, the more stability you can have in your core, the greater chance of success you're going to have.
And when you got to Brampton, you took on a leadership role pretty much straight away. You got an A put on your chest. Was that something I'm guessing you embraced that challenge?
Yeah, definitely. I'd come from Florida the 2 years before that. I was assistant captain my first year and then captain my second year. So I had grown accustomed to it, and being one of the older players and more experienced players when I came in, I was ready for that role for sure. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me whether I had a letter on my jersey or not. I was going to take a leadership role, and I was going to be vocal and try and do whatever I could to help the younger guys out. So, it's definitely an honor to get that and to be viewed as one of the leaders on the team and in the organization. It is, a big honor, and I appreciated, every moment I was able to do that. So, I really enjoyed my time and also my role as one of the leaders.
And your first year in Brampton, just some names on the roster. that Panthers fans are going to be familiar with. You've got Tim Billingsley, Jeff Brown, Luke Pither, and then David Ling joins that year about towards the end of it. Each one of those guys is a complete character. How did you cope with all of them?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, we had, in my 5 years, we had some real wild guys that came through. So I was fortunate enough to have, we had a lot of fun on that team, especially, but all the other teams too, with, anytime you put all those guys in a group together, you're bound to have some fun. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I love all those guys. They were awesome. And, to get them all together it was fun. Now you just sit back and kind of watch it and laugh.
It's almost like you should have had your own YouTube show, just following the team around.
I know it would have been crazy. Yeah, that's just to see. You'd have to air it on HBO or something like that, though. It wouldn't even. You'd have to get the 18 plus rating, I think, for some of the stuff that goes on.
Now, one of my favorite questions to ask on this all the time is, have you ever played with a player like David Ling before?
Yeah, a couple actually.
Okay. You're the first person to say that.
Yeah, so I played with Mike York in Rochester, and he was near the end of his career, and I mean, playing style wise, really reminded me of Linger a lot. Undersized guy, very scrappy, great vision, great passer, not a great skater, obviously. So there was a lot of similarities between those two, and then off the ice personalities too. They were pretty similar too, like just characters, awesome guys. Salt of the earth, do anything for you if they can. But a great guy to sit down and have a couple pints with for sure, and just enjoy the stories. Once you get them going, they just keep coming and coming. So. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play with Mike York, and he reminded me a lot of Linger.
And then the other thing is that everybody has a David Ling story. So what is Jordan Henry's David Ling story?
Yeah, this guy is a legend everywhere he goes. It's wild, from the Zamboni skiing that went viral there with you guys. And I mean, he is, everyone that's played with him, like you said, he is literally a legend everywhere he goes. So I would just, on a daily basis, just every game we played, he would have someone, some young kid absolutely scared to death out there because he's 40 years old, and he just would always get on these young kids and keep going after them. And they were just they were freaking out. They thought he was nuts, but I mean, he is nuts. So that's they were rightfully scared and justified in what they were thinking. But no, I think the first day he showed up was a good indicator of Linger. He walked in, and instead of carrying a hockey bag, he was carrying a duffel bag. And he pulled out only a pair of skates and the shoulder pads that he wore, which looked like they were made out of paper pretty much. And that was all he hung up in his stall. And then he went to the equipment guy and just got all brand new set of equipment. And I was like, how do you skate in brand new gear? And he's like, the only things I really care about are my skates and shoulder pads, and the rest is what it is. So yeah, that was Linger to a T. He just came in with skates and shoulder pads, and then went for a full new set of gear to go right on the ice for practice.
What did you make of his pre-game pepper eating situation?
He wasn't doing that as much in Brampton. I don't know if he got on them
every game
when he
over
went
here.
Over there, but
every game.
Yeah, he was. His pregame routine was definitely different than all the other guys, though. I would say he would stay in his suit forever. Like all the other guys would be, you get there, you take your suit off, you got your shorts, everything. He would be it would be an hour into being there, and he would still be in his suit pants, and he'd just be sitting there in his stall, drinking coffee, hanging out. Not really getting, all the other guys would be warming up, and he'd just be kind of chilling, having coffee, taping his stick, doing whatever, reading the paper, stuff like that. So typical older guy stuff from that generation. I mean, I played with a lot of guys at that age when I was younger too. So, I mean, that was the warm up of that generation. You have a cup of coffee in the newspaper and then you just throw the skates on and get ready to go. So yeah, I think it surprised a lot of guys that were younger than myself to see that.
And then our GM tells this great story, and he mentioned about warm-ups and things. Our GM tells this great story about David and where he was missing for warm-ups. He wasn't there, and he's meant to be playing in the game. And then he turns up and he plays. And then the GM's wife comes to the ring and talks and says, "Oh yeah, I saw David before the game. I was at some traffic lights, and this car started pipping to me. And I thought it was like someone being like rude. And I looked, and it's David Ling, and he's like telling me to roll in. I said, David, you should be warming up. The game's in like 20 minutes. He goes, I've done it before."
Yeah, a couple of times, no doubt about that. I mean, when you've played as many games as he have, I think that's great that you bring that up, because when he played with us in Brampton, he would take the shortest warm-up. So warm-up's usually 16 minutes long in the ECHL, and he would come on at 16 minutes and he would go off the ice at 11 minutes. Like, he would be out there for 5 minutes, and then he would just go off and he'd be in the dressing room, and the rest of the team would be out there for the other 11 minutes. So yeah, he would take the shortest warm-ups. That's funny that you brought that up. Yeah, he would always do stuff like that. I would die when I would see it would be the rest of the guys would just start sweating, and he'd be going off to the dressing room to go hang out till the game started.
The thing is, he can do that, and then he'll come out and score a hat trick, have a fight, stick someone in the face, and have a smile on his face.
Yeah, it never changed the way he played. So I mean, it's that's one thing that I will always say about Linger is I feel like if you're really fast when you're young, and all of a sudden you lose a step and you can't skate as fast as you used to anymore, you don't know how to play. It completely changes your game. So I always tell Linger that he was always slow from when he started. So he never lost a step. So he always played the same way because he was slow from when he was 20 to when he was 40. So it didn't make a difference.
He's also responsible for my favorite quote ever on this show. He looked at me and he said, "I used to use my stick as a weapon." And that was it. That was the line he used.
Yeah, no, he would. It's funny. He would tell the young guys on the team whenever you're going into scrums after the whistle, he would turn his stick blade over and we'd hold it like this, and he would go in and go like this and just like jab guys in the face with the blade of his stick, and you couldn't really see it because he was holding it in his glove, but yeah, he would just go in and start jabbing guys in the face. So yeah, he would I mean, the stuff that he got away with was amazing. He had so much respect from the refs. He would do stuff that, you know, everyone else would be getting major penalties for, and he was not getting anything for. At least a couple times a game, he would get away with something that was just wild that no one else could get away with.
Definitely a guy I imagine you were happy to have on your team, not playing against you.
Oh, yeah, one of those guys for sure. Just like, you wouldn't be able to stand him if you were playing against him. He would just wear you down. But, yeah, no, great to have on your team for sure. Good for a laugh.
And then the next year, Matthew Gagnon joins your team. After that first year with that incredible set of guys that I mentioned before, Matthew Gagnon joins. Now, Matthew Gagnon, not a guy afraid to start and finish a line brawl on his own.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he's one of the toughest guys I've ever played with. He was and me and him were actually D partners for a good chunk of that year. We played together. For some reason, we meshed well together. Our styles were kind of perfect. They complemented each other. So we played a lot of games together that year, and I definitely didn't see him lose a fight. And he was a killer. I mean, everyone known around the league, you know, only the toughest guys would fight him, and he still didn't lose to them. Anyone else was definitely shying away. So he would definitely get fired up.
I imagine with him as your D partner, you never had anyone come in with their elbows up on you in a corner.
No, I had a little extra space, which is always nice. You know, anytime you see that guy across the rink from the guy you're going to hit, you're probably not going as hard as you normally would. So it's nice to have a little bit wider berth out there for sure.
And obviously, guys like Ling and Gagnon, they played for Brampton, came to Nottingham, came back to Brampton. Do they talk about Nottingham or their time over here, like in the locker room? Like, do they tell you stories about things? Like, because I think in our own vain way, we like to think people talk about us when they go back home.
Yeah, for sure. They like I said earlier, every guy that I talked to that's played there has had rave reviews for sure. You know, they love it. They say the fans are extremely passionate, and you know they love the city and everything like that. And you know the way they were treated by the organization is top notch. So yeah, nothing but great things from all those guys to say about Nottingham. So definitely a destination place in the league for sure.
And then one thing I'd be remiss to break up, it's not anything back to the Elite League or any of those guys, but there was this clip of a game between Brampton and Newfoundland that went a bit viral the other year where guys were fighting out of the rink after warm-up. What was that all about? Give me some context.
That was just like, so I guess the context is Newfoundland's first year in the league, and us two being the only Canadian teams, we started playing them in exhibition games, and we ended up playing them in the first round of playoffs. I think total we played them 21 times that year. Ooh. So it was just like it nonstop with them, and it's just like I don't care who you're playing 21 times. You could be, you know, playing the girls' Pee-wee team 21 times, and they're going to hate your guts after, you know, halfway through it, right? So it doesn't matter who it could be your grandma on the other team for 21 games, and you're going to be going at it with her after that amount of time. So, yeah, stuff just kind of boiled over, and, you know, we had a couple guys that were ready to go, and they had a couple guys that were ready to go, and just kind of, you know, some stuff spilled over, and it ended up down the tunnel during warm up there. So, yeah, the video definitely caught fire for sure. Yeah, Mike Folks, he played over in the league there for a year. Yeah,
in Manchester.
Yeah, him and Billingsley are actually like best buddies. So they, yeah, and Billy would verify that story too. That Folks is a bit of a character, and he's ready to go at any time. So yeah, just kind of spilled off into the tunnel there, and you know then broke up and back to normal hockey. I didn't even see it. I was already in the dressing room. My warm up was over. I'd went off, and then all of a sudden the big commotion, and then he comes in the room. He's got a little blood trickling off of him, and his hands are all swollen up, and yeah, so. That was a good one. Didn't think much of it at the time, and then all of a sudden that video hits Twitter and it blows up pretty quickly.
Is that where you're just sitting there going, is this what you were doing?
Yeah. I was actually pumped to see the video because I got the first-hand account of it, but it's always nice to see the video evidence of what happened. I was like, I was upset that I missed it at the time, but then that guy had a really good angle of it. Actually, he was above and kind of had a great angle of the whole thing. So it was a perfect. Couldn't have shot it better with the camera in the rink, I don't think.
The guy who I felt the most sorry for was the guy in the suit next to them, because he obviously had no idea whether to try and get them apart or to just leave them. I don't know if he was like.
Yeah, I mean, you see two guys going at it, and you're the closest guy. You're thinking probably I should maybe get in there and break it up, but then you're like, I'm not equipped to break this up right now. I'm wearing a suit, they're wearing skates, and the last thing you want to do is step in between two guys that are going at it, and you're not ready. You might take one there. So yeah, he was kind of reaching in, and then I don't know what I should do. Wait for some backup. So yeah, that was funny.
It just makes it sound like the ECHL is just as crazy as the EIHL is. There's a lot of synergy between the two leagues that I feel.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's too bad, because you know the ECHL. I mean when I first turned pro, obviously it was known as a bit of a gong show, and you know there was always a lot of fights and a lot of heavyweights, and over that time it's become a place of, you know, a lot of really, really good hockey players. I mean, there's only so many spots in North America for the, you know, the good players to play, and you know now NHL teams are starting to send some of their prospects there, and you know the league is growing and getting better and younger and faster every single year. So it's unfortunate that the main publicity that we get is off of stuff like that. And I mean, the real big hits that we get are off of the crazy jerseys that teams wear, and then the crazy fights that happen, you know, brawls and stuff that spills over off the ice and stuff like that. So it's tough to break that stigma as a league when your main media traffic comes through fights and incidents of that nature.
The league over here, like especially in the early 2000s, I think there was one big incident that happened in the Nottingham Sheffield Steelers game where it was a massive bench clearing brawl, both teams on the ice, everything's gone crazy. And after that, the league kind of went really down that goofy way, because in my opinion, it's because they got addicted to the coverage they got from that incident and just ran with it. And ever since then, they've had to battle back from that reputation, which it's getting there, like you've mentioned before.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's a thing too. You kind of get drawn into it. I mean, as much as a lot of people like to voice their opinions about fighting and hockey and how much they dislike it. I mean, if you're ever in an arena when fights break out, it's louder than when there's goals being scored. I'll tell you that much. So, anyone that says they don't like fighting, go to a game and you see the mass amount of people that do love it. I mean, it gets people going. So, and that's another thing with the ECHL is, they play in non-common hockey markets. A lot of southern markets, a lot of places, smaller places without big time hockey. Maybe you got to find a way to draw fans, right? I mean, you're in Florida, they're not exactly conventional hockey markets, so the people come out and they love scraps and stuff like that. So you kind of want to put butts in the seats at some point too to make some money. So you gotta walk that line between having a really good team but also a fun team to watch as well.
And that's what you see, like nowadays, you guys who have the fights and stuff, you don't have guys who can play as well. Like you can't just have a guy who's going to sit there and have a fight anymore.